Hello and welcome to another Diablo 4 class rundown video. My name is ChaosMole, and today we want to take a look at the rogue. How does the rogue play? How does it feel? And what are the skills which were pretty fun, which were a little bit more boring, and what to expect from the class in general. As per usual, keep in mind, this is all based on the early access open beta, so we only had level 25, and so we are missing a lot of items, a lot of uniques, a lot of skills. We don't have the Paragon system, and things can change drastically because of that. But with that said, there is still a lot to learn and some interesting tips and tricks I can give you regarding the rogue. Also, please don't forget, this is a new channel of mine regarding all the RPG segments of video games, so please consider to like and to subscribe to the channel if you enjoy the video. But with that said, let's not further delay and let's talk about the rogue. One of the weirdest classes I have been playing in the early access beta. Why is it weird? Because the rogue feels like a class which should have been two classes. But then at some point Blizzard said, you know what, that's maybe a little bit too much work, we don't have enough slots, you know what, let's just make it one class. And it sometimes feels that way. I can see how in PvP that would be really strong because you are deadly in range but also in melee range, so a lot of players will be confused on how to handle the rogue in PvP. In PvE though, it seems like you will focus mostly on one thing and you will not try to just be melee fighter but also be range fighter, especially because some of the talents and abilities do not really work well together. And one of the weirdest things is actually what you are seeing here in the background. So as you might have already noticed, I am playing a very different rogue from what a lot of people will play in the beta. Most people will play with a bow or with daggers or swords, depending on whatever you find. So they will play range or they will play melee. What I'm trying to do is I'm trying to play like a medium-ranged trap rogue. And that's what I'm doing, right? I'm putting down traps and I'm throwing knives. And I have to say, it's a bit weird. It doesn't feel quite right. And the weirdest part here is the knife throwing. So as you probably know or don't know, at the beginning of your Diablo playthrough, the first thing you do is you choose a left click. And that left click is kind of determining what you would do with this class, right? So the rogue has 5 abilities. 2 melee abilities, which will let you zip-zap around on the battlefield or allow you to walk through the enemy or lets you do more damage from behind, you know, like your typical melee rogue. Or you have 2 range abilities, one which is slower but does more damage, and the other one is faster but you put more hits in. And it's pretty clear what those abilities are for, right? 2 range, 2 melee. But then there is a 5th, and that is the knife throwing, right? You have those dagger throw as a 5th ability, and you might think, oh, so there is like a skill, or this is building on other skills which will let me do something with knives on medium range, and there isn't. That's the weirdest part. Like every of the other 4 abilities will build on talents down the line which will allow you to build yourself the dream range rogue or the dream melee rogue. Right? If you were like taking the first bow ability, you would take other talents and other abilities which will utilize the bow. It's as simple as that. The same goes with the mage, right? Or sorg. Sorry, I sometimes say mage. The sorg can choose electricity or fire, and then you will start to go down like all the other fire skills because it complements the talents and abilities you already have. The knife for throwing does not have any of that. It basically is its sole ability in what it does, and it feels weird. It just feels like they put that in, and you ask yourself, for what? Because the ability is pretty cool. You can see it here, me using in the background, and it does some occasional damage and all that. It slows also the enemy, but it's weird, like that there isn't a follow-up to that knife throwing, right? And so I've been struggling a little bit to find an interesting build for the rogue, which is not just melee and which is just not like far away range. And so I ended up with traps, using a lot of traps. Now, it might be that I've been running here a PvP build, and basically everything I've been doing was not too great. Especially the end boss of this dungeon has been taking far too long. I think it was a 10-minute fight or so I had to do with that end boss, and that's not normal. Like, if you know what you're doing with your class, you don't take like 10 minutes for an end boss. And so this is definitely on me, that I try to do something unconventional with the rogue, but they offer it, right? So why not try it? But the rogue is exactly what you expect. If you have played any of the Blizzard games, might it be Diablo, might it be World of Warcraft, you kind of know what to expect from the rogue. It's a mix between the World of Warcraft rogue, when you are playing melee, and the Diablo 2 Amazon / the Demon Hunter from the third one. Even though I would say they're going a little bit closer to what the Amazon was when it comes to her range abilities than the actual Demon Hunter in Diablo 3. But the rogue, the only thing I'm missing a little bit from the rogue is survivability. Maybe I didn't look deep enough, but I sometimes felt like the rogue is really good in delivering DPS. Like, you have some burst damage which is just ungodly. Like, the burst you can push out as a rogue is crazy, and that would be especially interesting again for PvP. But because there isn't any life leech anymore in Diablo 4, or well, there is life leech, but under certain circumstances, right? Like, some heavy circumstances have to apply before you get any life leech. The rogue sometimes feels a bit squishy. And yes, there's also a specialization, which you can slowly unlock through your class quest. The first thing is that you are getting your combo points, which are just unlocked. So you are building up 3 combo points with your left click, and then your main attack does more damage. Right, that's what you were doing. You can see it now in action here because I just have it unlocked at that point. But I would say the rogue is definitely a class which is a little bit harder to play if you decide to do more than just the melee or range fighter. If you want to do like a mix of melee and range, it gets more complicated, and you have to be much more careful in what you do. You have to know when you can jump into a fight and when you don't, and it will give you a lot of learning time. So it is doable, and I think that is also the draw of the rogue, that you can do both, right? But to learn that, it would take some time, and it will not be easy. So keep that in mind when you are choosing the rogue. As I said, unfortunately, I cannot say anything about the PvP because that is not available in the early access beta, which was a bit unfortunate. I was looking forward to that, but we will talk about that in a different video. And also don't forget that I'm doing a podcast here on the channel about Diablo 4. The first episode is already available. It's also available on all the other podcast websites like Spotify and Apple Podcast. And also, if you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to like and to subscribe for more Diablo 4 in the future. And of course, there will be the other class videos. I will add that to the video description. Also, I will try to provide a talent tree of the build I was running in the beta. Keep in mind, it's not really necessarily anything to follow. This is just me trying out some stuff, so I wouldn't say this is a build guide in any shape or form, because it isn't. But if you enjoyed it, or if you still have some questions, let me know down below in the comments. And with that said, thank you so much for watching, stay safe, and I hope to see you next time.